It says we're streaming, are we?
We're close.
Okay.
Yeah, it says we're live.
Okay. Yeah, it just takes a minute for me to verify it. Yes, it just takes me a moment to verify that it's actually going on the website. Okay. I know when it says we're live, it then takes a moment to make sure we're good on the website. Let me just let me mute that. Okay. All right. We can begin our meeting, which let's do by standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all. If it's okay with you guys, I'd like to also just take a virtual moment of silence for the Portage County residents who have died as a result of the pandemic. Our thoughts are certainly with the families, friends, and neighbors of our fellow residents. So let's just take a short moment. Thank you. All right, with that, we can go into our solid waste district meeting.
Make a motion to
So we'll recess. Go ahead, Vicki.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 9th, 2020.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicki,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Motion to approve the April 16th, 2020 bills as presented by the county auditor.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicki,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move to approve the April 16th, 2020 journal vouchers as presented by the county auditor.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicki,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move to approve the April 16th, 2020 then and now certification as presented by the county auditor.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicki,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move to declare the necessity to purchase one used automated side load truck for the Portage County Solid Waste Management District.
Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. This is a truck. We're purchasing this from a company called Carco in Minnesota. It was originally from the city of Orlando in Florida. It's a 2016, I believe 38,000 miles on it. And again, our trucks at that vintage are closing in on 90,000 miles.
Wow.
So I did negotiate the price down by about $10,000, explaining that I cannot bid this out, that 49.5 is legally as much as I can go. I think this is another good deal for us. But I also found out, I contacted a couple of cities in Florida. They generally list their trucks on govdeals.com. So I've been kind of watching that religiously in case we need a truck in the future. Because if we can get one from Florida that's gently used and not been in the salt, I think that's a much more efficient way to buy a truck. Because a new one right now is about $260,000 to $210,000.
Okay. Okay. I will make a second.
Roll call, Amy?
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to amend the 2020 annual appropriation resolution number 19-193 adopted December 19th, 2019.
I will second, unless, Bill, do you have anything you
No.
want to add on this?
No, this is just moving money around just so we can do the truck and some other things here at the district.
Okay. I seconded Amy.
Oh, sorry. Roll call, Amy.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call, Amy.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. Bill, thank you very much
All
for
right,
joining
thank you,
us.
commissioners. Sure thing. Have a
Have
great
a good
day,
day.
everybody.
Two.
All
Bye.
right, thanks, Bill.
Hmm. I think I've got my.
Give Janet a moment to dial in.
There she is.
Morning, Janet.
Hi,
Hi,
Janet.
Janet.
Hi, everybody. Our new normal.
Yes.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll get right into your discussion item with the Families First Response Coronavirus Act and accrued leave discussion item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really just. Hi.
Uh-oh, Janet, I think you may be watching the live stream and need to mute that.
Oh, I thought I did. Sorry.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Sorry. I thought I did.
It's okay. We're good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to open up the floor. I know we talked about the accrued leave a couple weeks ago, and then last week it was on hold. So I really just wanted to bring it back this week and just really talk it through. I know both Chris and I have spoke with the auditor's office, and the auditor has concerns over this. So I really just wanted to just really talk it through and see what we wanted to, want to do about it. Oh, are you still there? Did I
Yeah, I
just?
think budget and finance is dialing in.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I don't know if everybody understands what we're talking about with the third. I don't know if you wanted me to kind of talk about why we're talking about it today. I don't know how much
Yeah.
background.
What are the auditor's concerns? Did she voice what it was? I mean,
And I could let Chris jump into, because I know Chris also talked to her yesterday.
Okay.
Based on what I'm aware of, she's just really concerned about the counting of the third, because our system, from what I understand, our system cannot calculate it itself. So it would have to manually be counted or calculated, which obviously would take some time. So I don't know if Chris, if you want to jump in and since you've had some discussions with Janet.
Yeah, yes, both Janet and Amanda said the same thing. They would have to do it, and she could probably speak more to that as to what that would entail. But that seemed to be the bigger issue with the auditor's office.
Can I ask how many employees we're talking about?
Which obviously would take some time. You know what? This keeps unmuting, and I'm going to turn the meeting off. Sorry.
Okay.
It's okay.
It unmuted by itself. Right now, all I'm aware of is how many people have applied for the expanded FMLA. And as of this morning, we only have 2 people that applied for the expanded
Okay.
FMLA. The emergency leave, we would only know if someone is using part of the emergency leave, connected to the FMLA part. However, there are codes in Munis that were dedicated just for the emergency leave. So we would have to run a report in Munis to kind of see how many people are really using the emergency leave right now. But HR is we're only aware of 2 that are using the FMLA for childcare.
So we think it's probably a pretty small amount.
I'm getting a lot of questions from different elected officials and different department heads. So I don't know if they're questioning it just to understand the policy, or they're questioning it because the situations come across their desk. I do know that the questions I'm getting mostly relate to childcare.
Yeah.
In regards to that, then the person can actually apply for FMLA, which if they do that, the first 10 days, according to the act, are unpaid. However, the act is also saying that the employee can elect to use their own accrued leave for those 2 weeks, and then there would be 2 weeks unpaid. But right now, what we're seeing is that the employees are using the 80 hours of the the emergency leave for the first 2 weeks of the FMLA, and then they're going into the 10 weeks. So the 10 weeks of the FMLA is only paid at 2/3 of their work. Yeah. And that's when the employee, I think that's part of our question, is like during the time that the employee is not being paid 100% of their wage, would they be allowed to use 1/3 of their accrued leave to make them whole or to offset the cost? I think that's where the auditor's office is coming in with some concerns.
And the concerns are just merely staffing concerns, not necessarily, she doesn't agree with this. It's just staffing concerns on her behalf,
Here's,
is
if
what
I
I'm
could,
hearing.
Commissioner, one of the issues I believe from the auditors, and if with the 2/3, it's kind of, it gets kind of confusing, but with the emergency paid leave, there's 6 qualifying reasons. 1, 2, and 3, you get 100% of your regular rate of pay. That's when the individual employee himself or her, she is ill with COVID-19. Now, items 4, 5, and 6, this is where the confusion comes in. That's when they stay home to take care of somebody else who has COVID, or for number, if they stay home to take care of a child who's home from school or daycare due to the day school being closed because of COVID-19. That's at 2/3. Let's say you take 2 weeks off at the 2/3 rate of pay over 80 hours. Say if you make hypothetically $2 an hour, that 80 hours would be paid 2/3, say $670. What I think the auditor issue is, since they're paying 80 hours in 2/3, if you would include the 1/3 that's not paid under the county's policy, if they would use their own unused accrued time under our county policy, then how do you allocate the hours? So right now they're already getting paid 80 hours at 2/3 pay. Then we have another 1/3 pay. And how do you formulate that? I think that's the issue the auditor is trying to wrestle with. Just the way the act's worded, it creates some accounting issues.
And that's how I understand it too. That's their concern.
Yeah. See, the way to look at this right now, you have 2 policies in place. You have the county policy, which was placed before the emergency. It's in place now and be in place after the health emergency. In addition to that, you have the Congressional Act, the Family First Virus Response Act. Under that, the county is mandated to provide the 80. So we've got essentially 2 policies in place. So if an employee wanted to be paid leave under the Family First Act, that's where the problem with the 2/3. And it's just for the items 4, 5, and 6, when the parent stays home to take care of somebody else or to take care of the child who's home from school. So the act itself doesn't require the employer to use their own policy to compensate for the 1/3. It's in your discretion to do that. And looking at the CCAO materials, their sample documents do allow for the employees to use their own policy. The whole issue is going back to the accounting. How do we square the 1/3 under our current county policy so the auditor can reconcile that with their bookkeeping? So I think that's the problem we have right now.
And it's a problem that is with our staffing, not something that like the state auditor would see a finding against us for, right?
Well, that's something I think we'd want Janet to check with the state just to make sure to, safeguard everybody on our end.
Mhm.
And hearing Janet describe it, I do think one of the problems is how to keep track. She said that would have to be done manually, and what that entails. The auditor could probably speak better that than I could.
Hmm. Yeah, because
Well,
I would really
we
like
have,
to.
go
to-
ahead.
No, I mean, so they're allowed for you said the first 2 weeks, the first 80 hours, they don't get paid under this provision, so they can use like leave that they have accumulated to cover those 2 weeks. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, here's where it gets even more complicated. In the Family First Virus Act, Response Act, basically there's divisions. There's the paid emergency there's the paid emergency sick leave, which is the 80 hours, and then you have
Mhm.
Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act expansion. So technically, there's two separate acts within that federal act.
Okay.
So for the paid emergency sick leave, it's up to 80 hours at your regular rate of pay. And that's where they throw in the reasons. For the first three reasons, if you're sick home for yourself, you get full pay. So we're okay there. That's up to 2 weeks. If you have to stay home to take care of somebody else, it's at 2/3 pay for the first 2 weeks. And if you have to stay home to care for a child who's home from school or daycare, that's also
Yeah.
2/3 for the first 2 weeks. Then if they need to stay home under the family medical leave expansion, then it's additional 10 weeks at 2/3 pay. So when we get into the final 10 weeks, there's still that 2/3 issue where, they're not getting paid for the 1/3 federal law. That's
Yeah.
where do we allow the employee to use their own accrued leave under our county policy to offset that 1/3 that's not being paid under the federal law?
If we wait a week and try to get this worked out with Janet, how much of a hardship are we causing employees? Are people still in that first 2-week window? Will we be able to resolve it by the time the paycheck with this would hit for the additional 1/3 if we had it resolved by next Thursday?
Janet?
Yeah, because this just started April 1st. So I believe that was 2 weeks ago. Will it be 2 weeks ago?
It'd
Yeah.
be,
Yes.
2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
It was 2 weeks ago today. So we're coming up on the time now that I don't have the payroll schedule in front of me. So I don't know when the next payroll schedule, but we would be coming up on a time where employees would need to know. I don't know if I could quickly
With
look
that
at
time, would we still be okay by Thursday of next week?
Next week.
It seems like we would, but
Yeah. I think we would still be okay, but I do know we probably should make a decision by next Thursday.
Okay.
So that-
yeah,
so
I
that
wouldn't
way
want to go any
employees would
later
know.
than that either,
Yeah.
but seems like we could continue the discussion with Janet and try to figure it out and get a sense for how many employees we're talking about. I could see if sometimes when you don't have this information down, it may seem like a bigger list
Deal.
than it is, and maybe it isn't, maybe it is. I mean, it will
Mhm.
give us a little bit more time to work it out, but without preventing the 1/3 pay, if we can do it within the next week, which seems like a reasonable amount of time for us to try to work this out.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I would
let's-
agree.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if you guys are okay, I think we can table this for one more week and we'll
Yeah,
continue to work on it.
I think we should. We should really try to make this happen if we can.
Okay. Thank you, Chris and Janet, for your work on this, and we'll continue it into next week.
Okay.
So we want to table that first resolution then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you want me to do the
So
second
Chris, if
resolution?
you are, I think you're free to leave us if you
Okay,
like to.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so
Are we
we
ready
have
for
the
this?
resolution for Jean up next.
Move for the Board of Commissioners, approve the hiring of Gene Roberts as the County Administrator, part-time supplemental for the Portage County Board of Commissioners as delegated under Ohio Revised Code 305.30.
Okay, I have a question on this. Kathleen, have you talked to Gene about what his duties are going to be? I know we don't have him starting until the 27th of April, but I have a feeling we're still going to be in the stay-at-home mode. I mean, as far as what his functions will be doing, since the way we're operating is not normal. I know you can call people, you can do video conferences, but it also concerns me that, you know, we've had positions, you know, pulled. I think you and Jean pulled a position for a project engineer because you were concerned about during the pandemic how it would look if we were hiring someone. And then we just had Randy Roberts ask about his staff, and he was asked to wait until we get out of the clear with the pandemic. I'm just concerned how this is going to look and what exactly. I mean, hardly anyone's in our building. And yes, you can do phone calls and video conferencing. How is that going to work? Because we never really discussed. I mean, we have a job description that has what he has authority through the Ohio Revised Code, but we've never really talked about what exactly this position was going to look like. So do you have any idea as to what you're thinking Jean would be
So
doing?
I do think we definitely have talked about what the job would look like during the process of creating the position description and posting and throughout the hiring process. And again, it is a part-time supplemental add-on and for a bargain price to the county of $15,000, which you know, I think that's a big issue with looking at creating a position like this is the expense. And for us to be able to do it for that low of a cost, I think is to be celebrated as doing things efficiently and as cost effectively as we can. I think we'll need the time between now and the start date and sometime after to discuss the duties, and we'll have to do some type of resolution like other counties do with a county administrator and like we do with our clerk authorizing the different duties. And that is something that all three of us would have input on and would you know have ample time to review and be a part of that authorization process. So I think that is sort of the next step where we all provide input to shaping what this part-time supplemental position will look like.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
And I think that there are plenty of items and needs, especially in the pandemic, for more efficient organization and chain of command and oversight of operations, which is part of the rationale that we considered when deciding to add this part-time supplemental position. I think that the health is, you know, the public health emergency has shown even more why this is important. And I will say in my conversations with directors about creating this position, because this is something really that came from the directors, and they wanted to see us do this. They too have shared with me that the public health emergency has shown a real need for something like this, and that it's time for us to take this step.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I'd have to disagree that we really talked about what we actually see this position doing. I know you asked 3 of our directors to come to the board and bring this up and to create like a job description. But again, it's the job description specifically follows the Ohio Revised Code. That does not mean we're necessarily going to be assigning those duties to, I mean, as we had several directors mention during their interviews, you know, this is just the basics functions per the Ohio Revised Code. There was no real given details. And I believe your response to several of them was, you know, as this evolves, we'll figure out, you know, what exactly we want him to do, which some people would think that we're putting the cart before the horse, that this should have been decided beforehand. But that was my question. If you, you know, had a decision, so you answered that.
Well, it also says right here in this resolution, the board agrees to review exercise of powers delegated at a later date. And I think that that is something that we'll have to do in concert with the start date of the position. But we have a little time to continue those discussions.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question is, you know, in the resolution, I saw that as to what it pertains to, because it says extra at a later date, therefore be it. And I'm assuming that is the April 27th date. Is that correct?
Yes, I would think that we should do that in line with the start date.
Okay. So between now and then, the 3 of us are going to discuss how we envision this position going forward, because I think we're going to have at least more time in the stay-at-home mode. So it will be different as far as functioning compared to if we were at full capacity in our roles of operations at the county. Because I know several people, you know, are aware that Gene got it. And one of their things is there's been really no direction as to what oversight he's going to have over other directors. I mean, it says here he can supervise the affairs of the divisions of under the control or jurisdiction of the board. Is that going to be, so we'll just discuss this. Are we going to be talking about this next week, you think? Before
I think we'll be
starts?
talking about it between now and the 27th. So
Okay.
Next week is
It's the
likely,
only time we have left.
or the following week.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay,
You're welcome.
second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners accept the resignation of David Moore, MIS Coordinator, effective May 1, 2020.
I will second.
Janet?
With this one, again, because we're working off-site right now, we'll probably send David the exit interview questionnaire that we know in person. We'll send that to him before his last day to get feedback from him.
Okay. Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners approves the revised MIS Coordinator job description for Portage County Job and Family Services.
I will second. This is just David's, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I believe, and this is kind of backwards, because I think Kelly Jo may have this on her agenda, but I don't think she's coming until after me at some point. But it looks like she just revised the educational requirements on the job description.
Did it change the salary? portion?
No, it will not, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Did
I'll
we have
sec-
a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, Amy.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agree to authorize the 2-week internal, external posting of the full-time MIS coordinator, replacing David Moore for Portage County Job and Family Services.
Okay, I will second.
Roll call, Amy.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. All right, thank you very much, Janet.
All right, thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you guys too.
Hmm.
Kelly Jo, we are running a little bit behind and have our budget and finance resolutions, which I think will take 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be ready for you.
You just want us to call back in. We were testing to make sure we didn't mess up this time, so we
You can stay.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you a sense of where we were.
I'll just, if you think it's 5 and 10, we'll just hang out.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Uh-huh.
Todd, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay.
Did you guys get my email regarding the bill?
Oh, you know
Yes.
what?
Yeah, it's in your box.
Yeah, can you
Um,
hold on just a sec, Todd? Let me pull that up. Do you need a minute, Vicky, or are you good?
You know what? Is it an email, Todd?
Yeah, I emailed it
Yeah.
around 9 o'clock with the,
It was-
the template that I give you guys for the 4 resolutions.
Yeah, it actually came in at 8:42 on mine.
It didn't come in on mine.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, it went to Commissioners Amy and Julie.
Well, I've got an email at 8:13 and then the next one's at 9 o'clock.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's very weird because I didn't get it.
Here, let me try sending it to you.
Oh, wait a minute.
Again.
It just now came through, 9:33.
Okay.
But I just sent specifically to you. You might want to check, Vicky, if you're getting commissioner emails. Previously, we typed that commissioners in,
Okay.
so you might want to double check that with IT.
Okay.
This time I specifically typed Vicky in, you know what I
Okay.
mean? So maybe you're just
Okay.
not getting the commissioner mailbox.
Okay. All right, I'm turning it off here. Okay, I move that the Board of Commissioners agree to approve the Thursday, April 16th, 2020 bills, ACH payments as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Human Services, or other designee.
I'll second.
Todd, do you have anything you want to say about the memo?
No, there's nothing unusual about any of these items for this week.
Okay. Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agree to approve the Thursday, April 16, 2020 wire transfers for health benefits as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agree to approve the Thursday, April 16, 2020 journal vouchers as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agree to approve the Thursday, April 16, 2020 then and now certification as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, Department of Budget and Financial Management, Department of Internal Services, or other designee.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agree to amend the General Fund 2020 Annual Appropriation Resolution Number 19-0947, adopted December 19, 2019.
Todd, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that 200,000 chunk is for, that's just to bring the Portage juvenile amount up to the amount that was agreed on a joint meeting. I believe this, we had estimated 1.8 just based on last year's. It actually came in just a little over 2 million. This gets that amount to match that actual amount, and then the transfer can be done to them. And then the 14,000, the good news there is that was one of the Supreme Court grants. The Supreme Court issued a bunch of money here just in the last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, for courts to apply to get COVID, to get remote technology so that they could continue operating during the coronavirus. I know the domestic courts applied, the Common Police Court is applying, and Muni Court applied, and Muni Court has heard back and was awarded 14,000 to basically purchase equipment so that they could do more remote sessions. And so that ups their budget so they can begin spending that grant money.
Okay, thanks, Todd. I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to amend the non-general fund 2020 annual appropriation resolution number 19-0948 adopted December 19, 2019.
I'll second. Todd, do you have any explanation on that one?
Yeah, the big one, over $1 million up and 2 million down, is the mental health board. Originally, they had wanted a budget amendment so they could buy some PPE, and it turned into just kind of a general housekeeping, moving some of their project money to the new codes for the new years. You know, they have various projects that start new years at different times. And so the bulk of that resolution is just general cleanup. Joanne had a couple worker comp funds that needed adjusted up because of the current payments, but nothing out of the ordinary there, even though the large amounts.
Okay. Amy, I
Roll call,
second.
Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to create funds 7230, respective rating plan 2021 and 7231, respective rating plan 2022.
I'll second.
These are annual
Aye.
resolutions that we do. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you to explain it.
Oh, yeah, these are annual resolutions we do. You have the 10 worker comp funds that roll back 10 years. And so every year we create the next year's funds so that we can continue that process as we phase out the old ones and move into the new ones.
Okay.
You seconded, Sabrina?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to apply for and accept the grant award from the Supreme Court of Ohio on behalf of the Portage County Municipal Courts.
I'll second.
And this is that $14,000 grant. In this agreement, or in this resolution, you do agree to let Judge Poland sign all the documents. That is not uncommon when dealing with the courts, particularly with Supreme Court grants, that the judges themselves sign that.
Great,
Okay.
thanks, Todd. Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to transfer $102,744 from Fund 1201 Motor Vehicle Gas Tax to Fund 4251 Ravenna Road Bridge Replacement.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
And
Go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, Todd, go ahead.
no, this is just a routine transfer. This is going from the motor gas tax fund into a specific project. Generally, if there are grant funds or whatnot involved with the project, they are tracked in a separate fund. And so that 102,000 would, be sort of the local share or to get that project going.
Great, roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes,
Kathleen.
Yes.
I move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the satisfaction of mortgage form for Marvin L. and Eleanor L. Klein of 9157 Walters Road, Streetsboro, Ohio, 44241, to secure payment of $1,568. The original document will be recorded by Neighborhood Development Services, Inc. Documents reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management with no exceptions noted.
I will second.
Todd, I don't think we need you on these 3 items.
You know, I just want to ask one question.
Oh, sure.
Why is there an amount for 270 and one for 1,568? Why weren't they together, Todd?
But a lot of times if they apply as 2 separate projects, they get a new loan rather than combining the loan.
Okay,
Sometimes the one loan is a I call them delayed loan or deferred loans where they don't have to make any payments on it, but the other portion of the loan is. So it's not uncommon for us to have 2 loans on a property.
okay, so it's just 2 loans then.
And I can add
Correct.
to that, Todd, a lot of times they do separate the closing cost out, and that's why you'll see like a smaller one as well. And for the very reasons you stated. And Todd, before you leave, I would like to request for next week that you get to us your projections. I know the federal government and the state government and a lot of the other counties are taking a look at the impact of the pandemic that it's going to have on our revenue streams, everything from real estate taxes to income taxes to sales taxes, all the way down to our, the interest and stuff that we receive in the casino tax. Could you please get us a projection of the impact that you see it having on the county?
I'm happy to give you my projections. The caveat I would add to that is when we present in open session, particularly where the reporters report to the public, it causes a little bit of panic on what is right now very speculative numbers.
Yeah.
I will tell you there is going to be an impact. I would encourage you to wait to actually release numbers on actual impact until later. But if you want them and you want to start talking about it, we can begin that process. Just understand it is going to start causing, concern amongst elected officials, et cetera, that some of the numbers are quite large. We're in good shape to handle it. But by good shape to handle it, we are going to have to make some decisions. So if you'd like them next week, I can begin preparing something. That's up to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, if you
Todd, I think it would be good. I know I asked you about this privately last week, if you could do something for our meeting last week. And I think, now I think that it's something that we can begin discussing delicately. Certainly, very tough issues could be ahead of us, but I think it's better for us to be open and transparent about what we're facing sooner rather than later.
And Todd, the other thing is I think it's good. I know several of the other counties have already met with their elected officials and stuff. I think it would be good information for them to have as well. Because as you said, we're pretty good for this year, but it's really going to impact us next year. And we need to start planting that seed that we're going to be coming up possibly on some really tough decisions. Okay, thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Okay, we need the roll call for one.
Did we move that?
Move in a seconds on the floor.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call, Amy, please.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the satisfaction of mortgage form for Marvin L. and Eleanor L. Klein of 9157 Walters Road, Streetsboro, Ohio, 44212, to secure payment of $270. The original document will be recorded by Neighborhood Development Services, Inc. Documents reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management with no exceptions noted.
Okay, I will second.
Roll call, Amy.
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the satisfaction of mortgage form for Elizabeth D. Fear of 1180 Garth Drive, Kent, Ohio 44240 to secure payment of $1,891.16. The original document will be recorded by Neighborhood Development Services, Inc. Documents reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management with no exceptions noted.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes. Kelly Jo, we
Yes,
are finally ready for you.
Okay, and the good news is I don't think I'll take my whole time because I want to come back and see you guys in like 2 weeks. So that's good news. But bad news that I get to come back to you and provide more detail in a couple weeks. So do you want me to just get started?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so the first item on the open agenda was a proposed amendment to our CARES contract that we have with Coleman Professional Services. So in our current world, Coleman takes our after hours child abuse and elder abuse neglect calls. So when we close at 4:30 and through the weekends, and they take the calls and then they contact our on-call workers if for them to screen a call and decide whether or not to open it, so on and so forth. Our CARES line has decreased significantly, unfortunately. I don't know if you read the recent newspaper article on domestic violence, but they called and talked to me a little bit about our world. And so we've seen a decrease in calls coming through. We think probably a lot of it is because kids aren't in school and a lot of the educators are the ones that are reporting concerns. But with that decrease, Coleman is able to or willing to take the calls during work hours. Those workers are still working cases and have cases, but they would just take the calls and then contact our assessment supervisor, and then he would take it from there. So I'm requesting your support in increasing the contract by $9,900, $9,926. The contract would be amended to reflect $63,477.69 through September 30th. And it could decrease again because we don't know the future of the COVID-19 pandemic, but I wanted to propose that at this time.
Well, Kelly Jo, I can tell you, I definitely support it. I think it's a very minimal amount that could have a major impact on a child or someone's life that's being abused or neglected. So, and especially at this time, I'm in support of it.
Okay, and then we won't, unless you don't support it, we'll send the actual contract with the resolution through Joanne, so you could vote on the resolution at a later time. I just wanted to make sure you understood it, and if you had any questions about it or concerns, I wanted to be able to speak to them now.
Well, I also appreciate your thinking about ways that, you know, in this pandemic, we can be flexible and respond to this problem that's exacerbated by stay-at-home orders and, you know, people, you know, kids not going to school,
Right.
to their buildings. So thank you for doing this. On the budget end, Kelly Jo, where does this particular funding come from? So the additional
Okay, well,
$10,000.
Children's services, so levy dollars.
Levy dollars, okay.
Mhm.
And you feel confident that budgetarily this amount is there
Absolutely.
and available? Okay, great.
Yep, absolutely for this, yep.
Then I support that too, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. The next is just an update on our portion of the grant writer that we hired and are sharing with the other county departments. So to date, she unfortunately or fortunately is working from home now, but she has applied for 2 grants on behalf of JFS. One is Ohio Industry Partnership Grant through Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, Human Service Innovation Department. It was for $150,000. If approved, it could offset the costs that are related to our manufacturing internship program with Kent State and the manufacturing companies in Portage County. We've not heard anything yet, but it was presented to Mandy. We thought it was an excellent opportunity for us. So we're hopeful that that will manifest for us. She also applied for a very small grant, a community resiliency grant, like $2,500. What we had hoped was that the kids that reside in the group home could do some care packages for senior citizens in the community pandemic. Unfortunately, we were notified that we did not get this grant, that there were over 250 applicants. And so it was just something that we thought we could support the community in. So that one didn't work out. The one is still pending, and we gave her a list recently of some other grants. So she's busy on the back end doing some research for us, but we definitely have been utilizing her.
That's great, Kelly Jo. The community resiliency, where was that grant? Was that a private foundation or was that with the state?
It was a state grant, and I don't have the specific name, but it was actually a state grant opportunity.
Okay.
And then are you good with that? Did you have any
Yes.
other questions on? Okay. The next item was just an update for you all on where we are with staffing and how our staff are working from home. So Ohio Department of Job and Family Services expediently provided all 88 counties with VPN tokens so that our staff could take equipment home or use their equipment at home to tie into the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services systems. And so that's child support system, the public welfare system, or system, and then child welfare have their own system that they've already had tied into through Surface Pros. But we deployed equipment to staff that don't have them in their homes. And right now we have about 180 employees working out of their home remotely. We have about 15 staff rotating in the office. Our male staff are here. Admins are rotating in. Supervisors are rotating in daily. We have paralegals that are coming in and fiscal and accountants that are rotating in. So we have the predominance of our workforce working from home. Our group home staff, of course, are working in the group home. They are essential and need to be there with the kids 24 hours, but it's been very successful. All of the work that they're producing or they're working on is being monitored by managers, task lists, and we're actually finding productivity increasing in some areas while working remotely from home. So that's been a blessing for us. It's a tragedy of the COVID-19 crisis, but we are getting some work done and completed and monitored. We as an admin team, we do phone conferences twice a day. So we're touching base twice a day. And then our full management team does video conferences once a week, every Wednesday. So we're staying connected, all of us as managers. And I am sending out about 3 global emails to our staff every week of updates from the state, updates from the county. And so it's been a trying experience, but got a lot of feedback from our staff, appreciative of us minimizing the risk to them. And so relevant to our customers, our public welfare applications have tripled. So we were getting about 10 per day. They're getting about 30 per day. So we assume that would happen as people lose their jobs, especially families. They're going to apply for cash, food stamps, and Medicaid. And again, the staff are devoted to getting those processed timely. We received 30 applications for the emergency PRC funds, $300 cash payments. So Sue and her team are processing about $10,000 worth of payments for those families. We earmarked $100,000. The state gave us a new allocation. So we have about $90,000 left as we receive applications. If those funds aren't used, the state has allowed us to use those in tandem with summer youth programs. So whatever funds we don't use, which we think we're going to use most of them, we will then transfer over to the summer youth program. So all of our staff that go out to the fields, our social workers, our case managers have been given safety kits for their cars with masks and gloves and sanitizer. And so again, they're still responding. It's just, we do know that we've received a reduction in child welfare. And so that is a bit concerning to us, that, we know that abuse and neglect didn't stop. So we continue to promote. We're still here on our Facebook page and our web page. And so that's kind of where we're at this point. I don't know if you have any questions that I didn't touch on regarding our staffing levels and how we're meeting the needs in the community.
Kelly Jo, on the safety kits, are you okay on supplies? Is there a need for additional safety equipment, or do you feel like your staff is covered and feel safe with what they have?
I'm on the EMA team, and so I'm on those calls 3 times a week too. So we had an initial supply here. The Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, and it might have been through the Commissioners Association, offered counties to order masks through them. So I did order 100 at a $2 cost. And then I also ordered some supplies through EMA. And we just picked up from EMA today 70 of the N95 masks, 100 surgical masks, and about 500 gloves. So I think we're pretty good.
Right.
We were good, and so we're kind of planning for future if this extends. So we're good for a while, and everybody has been so wonderful and responsive to our needs. So it's been a good collaboration, especially from Portage County.
Great. And the PRC, the 10,000, is that the expanded portion that we recently voted on? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it allows for families under the 200% poverty guideline to apply and receive a $300 cash check. And so that would be in addition if they do end up getting awarded unemployment or public welfare. It was, a stabilizing payment because a lot of people still are not receiving unemployment. And so, so that would be 30 families that have qualified. Unfortunately, they didn't allocate any funds for adults without dependents. So we don't have an opportunity to give a cash check for those individuals, unfortunately.
Do you have any insights on the difficulty locally with tapping into the unemployment system?
So we received an update. Mandy and Brian were on a conference call yesterday or the day before. So they outreached to us 2 weeks ago, the state, because they were partnered and had a spot or an office at our OMJ center. And then when the pandemic hit, the state pulled all their staff. So before we even locked the doors, they didn't have a presence there anymore, but we have a relationship with them. And so when this all happened, they outreached to several counties through our Area 19. Craig sent information to Mandy, I learned after the fact, and said, would any of you OMJ Center employees be willing to take calls because the unemployment system is so backed up? So we threw our hand in the ring, and I think we had 6 employees of JFS that said yes. And so we were getting ready to get trained. They needed to get us equipment. And then 2 days ago, we were told that they're going to hold off right now because I think they feel that they recall that they said we're going to kind of hold off on training.
I just heard on the radio this morning too, that they've got 1,200 people working and they're hiring another 300 and some.
So they kind of pushed us back, which is fine. We put ourselves out there, and I think that they're feeling that that they have the team in the pool necessary to meet the needs. Mandy had some statistics that she quoted yesterday, and they were profound that I'm happy to email all of you and share. The numbers are astonishing. Portage County numbers, was it about 3,000?
3,000 new. We were at 3,000, now we're at 9,000.
Yes.
So we've tripled.
Wow.
So 9,000 unemployment applications from Portage County alone. And so she is able, Mandy has a contact with somebody behind the scenes. So we've had a couple people that have called very desperate, like through our HR department, through me directly. And so for those individuals that have tried, we've tried to broker for them. We haven't had a lot of complaint calls recently, so I don't know if they're covering bases right now, but they told us to hold on instead of, going through the training.
Do we have is there any work being done through Mandy's staffing I know that the state has set up website with job postings related to some of the essential areas where there's a great need for employees. Are we trying to help connect people, or at least let them know about that job? Because from what I understand, there are thousands of
Yeah.
jobs that are listed there. I know it's not necessarily a direct match, or there could be issues that would prevent, and I don't know what the salaries are like, but is that something that we're trying to help communicate out to our residents?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ohio Means Jobs had all the job postings listed. So that has continued to be streamlined from the employer to us and onto the website. Mandy did ask the state of Ohio for permission to do a local video kind of promoting us in tandem with them. And so they gave her permission a couple of days ago to do a video. So in addition to just what's out there, we're going to kind of talk and be more intimate with people through staff and a video on our website. So yep, we're definitely going to branch out there a little bit too.
That's great and needed. It sounds like those
Yeah,
are staggering numbers.
Absolutely. So the next thing I had was the February, March data report. I was scheduled to come in March, and then because of this crisis, everything got pushed back. So I didn't see anything that was profoundly different from the last time I presented. On that report at the end of March, it had 234 or 230 some kids in care, 236. And as of Monday, we have 213 children in care. So that's a blessing that we're reuniting kids with families and that the numbers are going down. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how our system is impacted when this pandemic ends as far as child welfare is concerned. And this is a trend across all 88 counties. They're all reporting a staggering reduction in the amount of calls coming in. And so we're, dealing with the families and working with the families that we have open, and again, still responding to crisis, but it is definitely not the way it has been, prior to the pandemic. So did you have any data in the report that you wanted to question me on?
No, it looked fairly even, I thought.
Yeah. And then I presented, it doesn't have a watermark on it, but this is still a draft, our annual report. It's not been sent out to the community because I wanted you to see it beforehand and see if you had any questions on that. Any of the sections. It's busy, colorful.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing there.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
And then the next two sections are more discussions. I would like to, like I said, come back in 2 weeks. Sue and I have been working on a projected budget for 2020. And why we didn't finalize it is because I have some strategies at the end of this meeting I wanted to get your opinions on and support on before we assume that you're assume and put it into our projected budget. So just some reflection and some data I want to share with you. And again, you'll get some things in writing at the next time we meet. But relevant to our budget in 2019, we have been able to shore up all of our 2019 invoices, less invoices from two providers that came in 2020. So I didn't bring a lot of detail there. They're providers that we respect and work with, but they did come to us after 2019. And so they are blended in with our invoices that we're going to pay, but everything else has been shored up. We received our partial new tax monies in February and March, and that's really put us in a good place. But I want to jump around on my bullets real quick because I've talked about it at different times, and I go back to it because it's going to be brought up at the next meeting. So Protect Ohio waiver demonstration is the third bullet under the 2019. And so back in the last quarter of 2019, I talked to you a little bit about the state of Ohio was no longer able to participate participate in Protect Ohio. Protect Ohio was a federal waiver program that has existed for 20 plus years. And so there were about 11 counties, Portage County being that years ago volunteered to be a part of this project. And the premise behind the project was you don't ask for reimbursements after the fact. The state will give you upfront funds and you work through creativity and initiative to try to work with families to prevent placements or reduce placements. So there's a project called Family Team Meetings, and we started it then and we still have it now, where it's a wraparound of service providers. So that was part of the Family Team Meeting or Protect Ohio concept. So anyways, the federal government came in 2019, or actually 2018, and said this is going to go away in September 30th of 2019. And while the state tried to ask for a waiver and extend this beyond that, the federal government came back and said no. So we were receiving about, Sue will correct me, $204,000 a month.
209. Yep.
209 every month for all these years upfront for Protect Ohio. So starting October 1, that $209,000 went away. And so if I could just frame that, and as you recall, when we invited Senator Eklund here and the representatives were lobbying for an increase in child welfare funding, we received a one-time $20 million at the end of 2019. The state of Ohio did. And so what that provided to us, Sue, was how much money?
It was like 500 and some thousand,
Our-
537,000 more than what we normally get.
Our portion of that was 537,000. But with the loss of 3 months of Protect Ohio at about a little over 600,000, we had a net loss of income in child welfare resources of about 100 and I don't even have it. No, it's $103,000. And so projecting into or moving into 2020, we still have not been rectified for Protect Ohio. We have realized a loss of $419,000 in the first quarter alone, because they're going to provide us gap funding, but we don't exactly know when. So we have been working at a deficit of $522,000 with the loss of Protect Ohio in and of itself. And that's even including that 20 million portion that we received from the state of Ohio. So I talked a little bit about that at the end of the year that, it had lost and whatever, but fast forwarding, we are at the, we wait for the state to give us information relevant to when certain funds or new funds are coming, and we don't have a date when the gap funding will come back to our budget. We've just promised that it'll be there. So I just wanted to frame that for you because that put us in a really awkward situation at the end of the year and still in the first quarter. And our saving grace was really our new tax money that we just have been receiving. But when I present in 2 weeks, it's, how do we make up for that loss when we don't even have a date when the loss is coming? So that's something I want to put on paper and project to you when we meet, but I just wanted to frame that for you. And then just reflecting back on 2019 as far as placement costs. So you all, from a month-to-month basis, I report to you how many kids in care. And so if you look back, and if you were here in 2016, we were sitting at 2016 before the opioid epidemic at $2 million as far as the cash balance. I mean, that was our padding and it was wonderful. And we had about 152 kids in care at that time. And then, the epidemic hit right after that. And so you fast forward to 19 and our numbers have been as high as 260 kids in care, 230 kids in care. We've never we dipped a little bit below 200 for a period of time, but we have not been able to go back to the reality of 150 kids in care and a $2 million surplus. In 2016, we paid out in placement costs alone $2.6 million. And then if you reflect on what we paid out this year, we paid out $3.8 million. So we're over $1 million more in placement costs with no additional funds from the state, the one-time additional funds. We do have the same levy dollars, which we're very appreciative of. And our staffing levels are almost the same. It was 56 staff in 2016. We have 60 staff now, but 2 are on leave. So we're not heavy as far as staff. So our reality is that the financial burden, which I've conveyed to you over the last couple of years, has been more kids in care and then more placement costs. And so a horrible reality in Ohio is the residential issue. So in our county, we've averaged that a child in residential treatment, we spend about $7,000 a month, as opposed to a child that we have in a foster home that we might be paying, $1,000 a month. And coupled with just the cost, there's no regulation relevant to the contracts. So when I sign the residential contracts every year, the state doesn't regulate costs. So the private providers can negotiate, or they say they're negotiating, they propose new rate increases on a routine basis. Just relevant to this epidemic, we were on a conference call with directors this week, and one of the residential placements allegedly, and it's being verified now, told one of our county partners that they were going to increase their rates by $150 a day just because they were keeping a child during this epidemic.
Oh.
And so, yeah. And so our association and the state of Ohio were going to question the provider, but why would the county director report that falsely if it wasn't shared? So it's just a travesty. And then it's a travesty that there's not a lot of beds also in the state of Ohio for kids. Half of our kids, we have about 13 on average in residential at a time. And if you carve out about 6 of those that are in the group home, more than half of them are only in residential because there's no other place for them to go. There's not a foster home. And that's because, again, a lot of times teenagers are stigmatized and they can be challenging, I could say, especially now we have a group home. It's interesting, but nevertheless, they deserve to have an experience of normalcy. And it's a travesty that residential placement is the place that we have to go for kids. And so from a Portage County standpoint, and I can speak for other directors, that's not what we want as our reality. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in our strategies, but we got to continue to work on getting our kids out of there just from normalcy, and also because the cost is ridiculous. And so if we can do more with that, that's not going to be the short-term financial solution for us, but it's going to be the long-term permanent solution for us that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about. So that was total placement costs. And if I could go back to the $3.8 million, and this is not to be negative regarding juvenile court at all, relevant to the $2.8 million, $1 million of those dollars correlate to kids that were remanded to our custody from juvenile court. So juvenile court has not had a budget to support those placement costs or help us with those. And I know the judge and I have talked, and we're going to talk in the future about what it could look like, but that's a big cost for us too, for those kids. So 1 million of the 3.8 came from kids that were remanded in our custody from the court system. So then if I can skip down just to the 2020 discussion, because that kind of ties into it. What's really great in the state of Ohio right now is under the new administration that they have now allowed for multi-system youth dollars. And so what we're allowed to do with these multi-system youth funds is Sue has been in the last month going back to July 1st of 2019, and she's recoding those kids in the financial system that would qualify for some reimbursement through multi-system youth. And so we will get some of those dollars back in May.
Mm-hmm.
And we think we're going to
get them all. We'll get them all. I
We'll get 'em all.
recoded the whole amount.
We won't get reimbursed for the cost from January to June because it's not in the same fiscal year. But again, that's a positive for us. It's just the check is in the mail kind of thing. It is not helping us right now when we lost Protect Ohio. It's going to help us in the future. So I just wanted to frame that and give credit to the state because they did step up and added that piece for the counties, and that's been great. And then they also added one more additional new funding source for us is best practice funds. So again, this isn't an allocation that you get monthly. They basically say, step up and tell us what you have going on that correlates to a best practice, and then we'll reimburse you for it. So for that, we hired the clinical manager for the group home. And so we're going to utilize that salary and those costs under a best practice. We have the transitional recovery house that we fund a case management position for that we're going to use for best practice dollars. And then we have some equipment we can purchase. So while it's not a large sum of money, we're going to be able to code some of that and get some additional dollars there. So those are really the two new dollar kind of groups that the state of Ohio is provided to us. But again, it's not a new monthly allocation. And I go back to framing that we were and are still trying to find out where we're going to make up that $522,000 loss. And so then moving forward, did you have any questions on that before I jump into the strategies? Because like I said, I'm going to come back and put some stuff in writing for you. But did you have any questions, follow-up questions on those 4 bullet points?
I did not.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nothing here.
Okay. So still framing that deficit, again, the strategies that we've talked about and that we've already imposed or realizing, I jump ahead to the bottom of the second page that I provided you. So we know based on some actions that we've already taken that we've reduced our budget by $410,000. So I'll jump to the front of the line and talk about some of our strategies, and then I'll kind of stress which ones are cost savings now for us. So random moment samples is the way that we get reimbursed for the work that our staff does. Sue, do you want to speak about it for a minute because you're the master on that?
Yeah, it's just how we get reimbursed for our indirect costs. So all their salaries and benefits, any administrative expenses, travel, training, that sort of thing. The random moment is used to sort of spread those costs to the grants that we have. So the 13%, we use actually TANF money. So that actually comes from public assistance, and they are able to show that the people that they are helping at that given time are under the 200% poverty level. And then we can pull some TANF money from, it sort of reduces what Children's Services owes back to the Public Assistance Fund for their administrative costs.
Okay.
And then the second bullet is really about us, or me pushing Sue and Sue pushing her staff to stay very timely on getting all of our costs uploaded into the state system, because that's how we get our disbursements. When the information is data entered, that's where they draw the disbursement from, which we get on a monthly basis. And then we're really scrutinizing our purchase requests at this time. So these are all strategies to really be conservative with our budget. I felt that I have to be very responsible and it not just be about look where we're at deficit wise. It's look where we're at, and these are the things we're doing. And then, there can be an add-on if need be. All of our mileage reimbursements for our staff that are out in the field are cross-referenced. It is so tragic, relevant to COVID-19, but I say to you that we're saving money right now relevant to this epidemic, that we don't have staff driving cars routinely. That's so sad and selfish of me to say, but it really does present a cost savings to us, and it's an unfortunate situation. You all recently approved, we moved a full-time MBU staff to a part-time position. He started last week. And so that cost savings to the agency was $42,000 with benefits. And what it means to the Children's Services budget is $15,000 savings. So that's already started last week, or that happened last week. We have suspended overtime, and we suspended overtime last year at the last quarter. And so we have continued to suspend overtime. There's definitely not a need for it now regarding the pandemic, but we will continue to suspend that as a cost savings measure. I'm also imposing a hiring freeze starting this month. So as people resign, we're not going to be replacing staff unless we're in dire straits. We're going to need to absorb that work. And so again, that's one of my commitments and the staff's commitments to try and to be a part of the reduction. All of our training and travel that you sign off on when you see our children's services staff going places, we're going to use food stamp incentive dollars that we earned instead of levy dollars and children's services dollars. So we're going to divert those expenses to our incentive funds. All of our outreach events associated to children's services, we were going to have the foster parent dinner in May, which we're going to have to push back. But those dollars are going to come from food stamp incentive dollars and not children's services funds. We're reviewing all of our kids in residential as far as stepping them down. And then I talked to you about the best practices with the new clinical manager. He also, one of his roles is that he's going to be going out or contacting each residential and really analyzing what they're doing in therapy in those centers, and if those kids are ready to step down, and if they can receive outpatient counseling instead of having to be in a facility. So he has started that, and we're really happy to have him. This next one is something that I will be pushing our staff on effective immediately as soon as we have a meeting about this next week, but I wanted to talk to you all first before I made it law. But excluding the kids in the group home, I want to cap our residential placements at 6. So for instance, if we have 13 and 7 of them live in the group home, then that's fine. The remainder 6. But if we have 16 kids and 8 of them are residential, that can't happen. So what it does is it pushes my placement staff to aggressively look for foster homes, either in our network or out of network. And it's an extreme challenge because again, foster families typically are not interested. Some are, but most of the time we don't have the demographics that say we want teenagers. So what that means also is that I'd like them to aggressively look at licensing more foster parents specifically to teenagers. That cost on that page, I didn't reduce it. I would like to propose a per diem for foster families that take teenagers at $50 a day, which would be $1,500 a month. So foster parents that would be willing to take teenagers would receive $1,500 in lieu of paying $7,000 in a residential facility. But $15,000 would also mean that the foster parents provide incentives for chores and support kids that need cell phone service and some other ancillary expenses that are connected to teenagers. It's not just a check, here it is, it's their food, it's their shelter, it's their clothing, it's transporting to jobs and, programming. And so it seems extreme, but again, or it seems a lot, but again, if we can get families in Portage County willing to step up and take teenagers, it would help us on the back end of getting these kids out of residential. So I'm going to pause there because you might have some questions or concerns about that, but I really believe in this effort. And so I'm open to talking to you about it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, it's a cost savings if it helps us with the residential cost.
Yeah. And Kelly Jo, I always appreciate you. You are always thinking out of the box and doing innovative things to save money, but yet still provide services. So I just want you to know, I truly appreciate that.
And can I tell you though, I feel bad to say this, there might be an opportunity where that loss for 2 months is something I'm going to have to talk to you about from a assistant standpoint, not a long-term, not a routine, but I want to be honest. And that's why I'm trying to be transparent and put myself forward to say, I would never come to you for support if we were not diligent in doing what we needed to do on this end. And that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It just means I want to provide you with the broadest picture. And I want myself and Sue to be accountable to our budget before we would ever come to you for an ask. And so these are the things that I'm thinking of that can help us definitely in the long term. It's the short term with the state stuff that bothers me a lot. And as much as you scream and holler, and I don't really scream and holler, but you passionately say to the state that this is time to invest in us. We know that nothing's going to happen until the next biennium budget. So we're kind of where we are. and counties are kind of just, doing what they need to do. So I appreciate your support. I invited all of you, the next bullet on the next page, to the foster parent recruitment banquet. We are allowed, actually, the state gave us a new allocation for that we could fund the whole banquet under a new allocation that doesn't take from our current dollars, which was excellent. And so while we can't have it in May, we want to still have it as soon as this pandemic, the stay-at-home opens. Celebrate the foster parents we do have, talk about the new initiative to encourage them to step up for teenagers. Judge Berger has already committed to saying a few words. And so we really want to make it celebratory, but also kind of, focus around the needs of our young people too. So I'll give you new dates when this happens, but that definitely would be tied into the banquet, that new initiative.
Charlie Joe, I just would suggest that you think about what maybe could be done as an alternative, only because I think that even when the stay at home is lifted, that there could continue to be mass gathering limitations. And, we don't want to, I know what a nice event and how helpful an event like this could be, but I am wondering what our ability will be to have any type of community event. So if you can continue to think creatively about other options, I don't know that that will be able to happen even in a delay later this summer.
You're right. That's
something to think about.
No, absolutely. We'll work on a plan B and a plan C too, because we can't belabor the initiative. So if we have to absolutely. So that's a great thought. Yeah, I was just kind of hopeful thinking, right? Wishful thinking. That'll happen.
Understand.
I don't think you're alone.
No. Judge Berger, I think it was Tusk County, not Tusk County, our partner county, not Tusk, Trumbull County. Judge Berger partners or participates in Trumbull County's adoption event that's in November, because adoption day is in November. So he had said to me, let's do a collaborative. And so we're planning that for November. So that is an effort though, while it's good PR and we're celebrating adoptive parents, to recruit people to also adopt, not just foster, because we have like 20 kids that are eligible for adoption in Portage County. So those ongoing efforts would be great too, to give kids a permanent home and out of the foster care system. This was drafted before the levy issue, so we're still hopeful that the levy results are in our favor. Our second renewal levy was supposed to be on the ballot in March, and so we're crossing our fingers. Good or not, some people have kind of critiqued me a bit. They thought we should ask the taxpayers for more, but again, I feel that our community has been so supportive of our agency. I want to try to do some cost-efficient measures before I go before the taxpayers. So that's why we didn't ask for an increase and just stuck with the renewal. Our group home, when we have 6 kids and we've had them, they're just transitioning back home. We've realized a cost savings of about $154,000. Sue can attest to that. With the overhead, with the lease and utilities and salaries, correct, Sue?
Correct. Yep.
You're reflecting a savings already for an annual savings of
That's an annual savings. Yes.
$154,000. So that's a good thing. We did a good thing there. Challenging, but a good thing. I still would like to, when things taper down, to invite Senator Eklund and also Representative Kleitz. She responded to the banquet too, and she said she'd be happy to speak. So I just didn't include her in here, but for both, she came to the ribbon cutting, so she actually did get a chance to see the group home. But I wanted him to come and see. He's been to our community twice, and again, at the same time, plug the need for increased child welfare funding as he, decides to align with initiatives in the future. And so that ties to that, both of those. The one highlighted bulleted, I would like to ask for you all to support our children's services staff moving out of the annex building. Part of them, close to a half of them, are already here on the 3rd floor in the admin, that other wing that HR and business and finance, county business and finance used to occupy. we have vacant offices all on my side of the floor and vacant offices on the second floor. And so that building, I think can use some finesse, and I'm still concerned about the ADA compliance thing. The elevator does work at times, but we've had struggles. And so it would be a $69,000 savings for us if we could move our staff out of that building, the rest of the staff, because half of them are here. And I'd like your support to do that by
Yes.
July 1st.
Yes,
Okay. Yep,
Any-
you got my support for
definitely,
that.
definitely.
Thank you so much. And then I brought to you in the last quarter of last year, the MST contract was a family and children's services contract that is proposed to terminate June 30. And actually we had a conference call and it's gonna end sooner than that, but that cost savings and another reduction, another contract, we realized 173,000 annual savings for 2020 just for that contract alone, and another small piece of another one. And so when you just total up the highlighted savings that I talked to you about, those in and of itself are about $410,000 savings for us. That doesn't include what we could save if we can realize our goal with the residential reduction, and if we can get more foster parents. So there's some future savings out there, but I just wanted to highlight those to you. I wanted to see if you would support those. And then, like I said, in a couple of weeks, we can lay out the whole 2020 projected budget to you, factoring some of these approvals in it, and then go from there. And so I'll shut up now.
Those are good points, Kelly.
Okay.
Jo. Very good points.
Okay. Any questions for Sue or I, or we're good on those?
We are good.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your patience with us.
And I think we have a resolution.
Oh, yep,
Yep.
Sue has the
Yep,
last
we
one.
got one resolution.
Okay.
This is to transfer funds from our WIOA fund 1413 to our public assistance fund 1410 for salaries and administrative costs for January, a second adjustment for January, a first adjustment for February, and then for March in the amount of $72,135.62.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to transfer from Fund 1413 WIA Fund to Fund 1410 Public Assistance Fund.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, Sue
Kelly
and
Jo and
Kelly
Sue.
Jo, thank you so
guys.
much.
Be safe. Take care.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You got it, Sue? Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for the miscellaneous items?
I am.
Move that the Board of Commissioners approve the special meeting minutes of April 7th, 2020, the regular meeting minutes of April 9th, 2020.
Okay, I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners approve the March 2020 adjustments to the Portage County Water, Portage County Sewer, and Streetsboro Sewer billing accounts as reported on the adjustment reports submitted and reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Move in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 325.07, the Board of Commissioners acknowledged receipt of the monthly record of proceedings and transactions for March 2020 as presented by the Portage County Sheriff's Department.
I will second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. I have this one item on the Board of Elections letter that Joanne notified us about.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have much of an option here, but I think we should go ahead and give Joanne authorization to open the main doors on the 28th for their election day needs. And I think we'll be okay during the period after. It looks like if that changes, we can address it. It sounds like they'll be able to manage that without having the building open.
Is someone going to
Yeah.
be there to escort them though, Kathleen, to the Board of Elections? How is that going to work?
Yeah.
So from what this says, the time period is the 28th through the 5th. From the 29th to the 5th, they were pretty sure, we should verify that. We don't need to do that at this moment. We have a little time, but verify with them that they can escort people. The day that they cannot escort people is the 28th, the election deadline for this extended election. So we would need to open the main doors back up. Joanne is correct that we would need to have security on that day and a sheriff's deputy for the after hours portions of that day. I think we also, and we could, I'm sure Joanne would be willing to help with this, but notify our different departments and elected officials about this. And I know for us, we should have somebody in the building during business hours on our floor because the elevators will be open and accessible that day. And I don't know what other floors that would impact, but I'm sure we have a little bit of time here, so we can notify folks that on the 28th, the building will have public access for the Board of Elections.
But you know what? It's no different than when they have public access after hours. They have the security person that watches, so that no one goes on the elevators. I don't know if you've ever seen them after hours.
I have seen them after hours. The issue is that employees would be using the elevators, and I don't know if, how would the security
person
know? Be easy for a member of the public, to also access the elevators. At the after hours portion, I would assume that would be a little easier to secure, and you may even be able to shut the elevators down or lock. I don't know. But sometimes employees are in after hours, so
yeah.
However we handle that part, the after hours part, typically, I think we could do the same.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have staffing on all the floors on that day during the regular hours.
And are you talking just on the 28th, from the 29th to the 5th? You're actually going to have the doors closed back off to the public and they have to greet people? Or are you talking about allowing the public to access from the 28th through the 5th?
I'm reading our director's email to us, and what she said is between the 29th and the 5th, she thought that they could escort staff, although I think we should verify that with the Board of Elections. We do have time because that's a date future. But what I'm talking about right now is the 28th.
Yeah, the 28th, she suggested that we just have the security for the one day, but I thought the Board of Elections stated they would not have the manpower to bring people back, but we can verify that.
What they said is they wouldn't have the staff power on the 28th, but that they may in the period after. So that's the part we need to verify.
Okay.
But I think it's okay to set this in motion with Joanne, and
just let her
I
take
just
it.
wanted to make sure we discussed it. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, well, that's all I had. So I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, Amy?
Vicky,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes. All right, thanks everyone. Have a
you.
good rest of your week.